2/3. That's how much of their lost weight the average person regained within 1 year of stopping semaglutide in the clinical extension trials. 2/3 of everything they worked for. But here's what those headlines don't tell you. Some people kept most of the weight off, and the difference between the two groups wasn't luck. It was preparation. I'm a registered nurse, and today we're going to walk through exactly what happens in your body when you stop taking Ozempic and what the research says actually works if you're planning your exit. First, if you're thinking about stopping or you've already stopped, there is zero judgment here. People stop GLP-1 medications for completely legitimate reasons: cost, side effects, family planning, reaching a goal. Sometimes life just changes. What I want to give you today is the clinical picture, what the research actually shows about weight regain. What happens to your appetite, your blood sugar, your metabolism, and most importantly, the specific evidence-based strategies that improve your odds of maintaining your results. Quick disclaimer, this is education, not medical advice. Never stop a prescribed medication without talking to your provider, especially if you have type 2 diabetes. We'll cover why that matters in a few minutes. Let's get into it. Let's start with why people stop, because the reason shapes the plan. Reason 1, cost. Without insurance coverage, these medications can run over $1,000 a month. Insurance denials, coverage changes, and prior authorization battles are the #1 reason patients tell me they stopped. It's not a willpower issue, it's a wallet issue. Reason 2, side effects. Persistent nausea, constipation, fatigue, or GI issues that never settle down. For some people, the trade-off simply stops being worth it. Reason 3, reaching your goal. You hit your target weight and you and your provider decide it's time to see if you can maintain without the medication. And reason 4, pregnancy planning. GLP-1 medications are not recommended during pregnancy, and current guidance is to stop at least 2 months before trying to conceive because of how long the medication stays in your system. All 4 of these are valid, but no matter which one applies to you, your body responds to discontinuation the same way. So let's look at the data. The most important study here is the STEP 1 extension trial. Participants took semaglutide for over a year and lost on average around 17% of their body weight. Then the medication stopped. 1 year later, they had regained roughly 2/3 of the weight they'd lost. So someone who lost 50 pounds regained on average about 33 of them. And it wasn't just the weight. Improvements in blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar largely reversed too. The tirzepatide data tells a similar story. In the SURMOUNT 4 trial, people who were switched to a placebo regained about half of their lost weight within a year, while those who stayed on the medication continued losing. Now, 2 critical points of context. First, these trial participants got minimal lifestyle support after stopping, no structured maintenance program. That's not necessarily your situation. Second, averages hide the range. Some people regained everything, others kept most of it off. The regain is common, but it is not universal and it is not inevitable for every individual. The takeaway isn't don't ever stop. The takeaway is stopping without a plan is where most regain. So why does the weight come back? It starts with your appetite. Semaglutide has a half-life of about 7 days. That means it takes roughly 4 to 5 weeks after your last dose for the medication to mostly clear your system. During that window, here's what patients consistently describe. Around week 2 or 3, portions start feeling smaller. By week 4 to 6, hunger is noticeably back. And for many people, the food noise returns, that constant background chatter about eating that the medication had quieted. Here's the mechanism, and this part matters. GLP-1 medications work by mimicking a hormone your gut naturally produces, slowing stomach emptying, signaling fullness to your brain, and reducing reward-driven eating. When the medication leaves, you don't return to some neutral baseline. Your body actively defends its previous weight. Hunger hormones like ghrelin rise, satiety signaling drops, and your brain essentially turns the appetite dial back up. This is biology, not a character flaw. If your hunger roars back after stopping, that is your endocrine system doing exactly what it evolved to do. Knowing that in advance is half the battle, because you can build your defenses before the hunger returns, not after. Now, if you take Ozempic for type 2 diabetes, this section is for you, and it's the most medically important part of this video. Ozempic isn't just an appetite medication. It stimulates insulin release when your blood sugar is high, suppresses glucagon, and slows glucose absorption. When you stop, those effects fade over the same 4 to 5 week window, and blood sugar typically rises. In studies, A1C improvements largely reversed after discontinuation. For someone whose diabetes was well controlled on the medication, stopping abruptly can mean returning to levels that damage blood vessels, nerves, and kidneys over time. This is why stopping should never be a solo decision if you're diabetic. Your provider may need to adjust or restart other medications, metformin, insulin, or something else, to cover the gap. You'll likely need more frequent glucose monitoring for the first 2 to 3 months. And if cost is the reason you're stopping, tell your provider that directly. There are often alternatives: older GLP-1s, manufacturer savings programs, or different drug classes entirely. The worst outcome is quietly stopping and letting your blood sugar drift for 6 months before anyone notices. Please don't let that be you. There's a third factor working against you, and it has nothing to do with the medication itself: metabolic adaptation. When anyone loses a significant amount of weight by any method, the body responds by becoming more efficient. Your resting metabolic rate drops, often more than you'd predict from the weight loss alone. Your muscles burn slightly fewer calories doing the same work. Thyroid hormone and leptin levels shift downward, while hunger signaling shifts upward. In plain English, after major weight loss, you're running a smaller engine that's screaming for more fuel. The medication was masking that hunger signal. Once it's gone, you're managing metabolic adaptation with no pharmaceutical buffer. This is why the maintenance strategies we're about to cover aren't optional extras. They're specifically designed to counter these exact mechanisms, protecting your muscle mass to defend your metabolic rate, and managing hunger through food composition instead of medication. All right, here's the part that actually changes outcomes. 5 strategies, all evidence-based. Number 1, protein. Aim for roughly 25 to 30 grams per meal. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, and it protects your muscle mass, which defends your metabolic rate. This is your single highest leverage food strategy. Number 2, resistance training, 2 to 3 times a week. Not just cardio. Cardio burns calories. Resistance training preserves the muscle that keeps your metabolism from cratering. If you do nothing else, lift something heavy twice a week. Number 3, and this is the big one, build these habits before you stop, not after. Ideally, spend your last 2 to 3 months on the medication practicing maintenance behaviors while the appetite suppression is still helping you. The medication gives you a training window where habits are easier to install. Use it. Number 4, weekly self-monitoring. The research on long-term maintenance consistently shows that people who weigh themselves regularly and track trends catch regain early, when it's 3 pounds, not 30. Pick a consistent day, track the trend, not the daily noise. And number 5, have a regain action plan written down in advance. Decide now, if I regain more than 5%, I will contact my provider, restart food logging, and reassess. Because deciding in the moment, when hunger is high and motivation is low, almost never goes well. None of this is glamorous. All of it is what the maintenance data actually supports. Should you taper off or just stop? Honest answer, the research is still catching up. The big trials studied abrupt discontinuation, not tapering. But clinically, many providers now favor a gradual step down. For example, moving down 1 dose level every 4 to 8 weeks for a few practical reasons. First, it lets your appetite return gradually instead of all at once, giving you time to adjust your eating patterns at each step. Second, it acts as a real-world test. If you regain rapidly at a lower dose, that's valuable information. Maybe full discontinuation isn't right for you yet, and a low-maintenance dose is worth discussing. And third, psychologically, a taper feels like a transition instead of a cliff. Some people also do well spacing out injections rather than reducing dose, though that's an off-label approach that absolutely requires provider supervision. Bottom line, there's no proven superior method yet, but a supervised taper gives you more data and more control than stopping cold. Bring it up at your next appointment. Let me be clear about something, because there's a lot of shame in this conversation. Sometimes stopping is the right call. If you're planning a pregnancy, stopping is medically necessary. If side effects are damaging your quality of life and adjustments haven't helped, that's a legitimate trade-off decision. If the cost is forcing you to choose between medication and rent, that's reality, not failure. And if you've maintained your goal weight for months and you and your provider want to trial life without it, that's a reasonable, structured experiment. The framing I want you to leave with is this: Obesity is increasingly understood as a chronic condition. For some people, that means long-term medication, the same way we treat blood pressure. For others, medication is a season, a tool that did its job. Neither path is a moral judgment. The only wrong way to stop is suddenly, silently, and without a plan. If you're planning your transition off a GLP-1, or you just want to be ready, I put together the GLP-1 Exit Strategy Guide. It includes the taper conversation checklist for your provider, the protein and training targets we covered, a weekly monitoring template, and the Regain Action Plan worksheet. The link is in the description. And if this kind of no-hype, nurse-reviewed GLP-1 education is helpful, subscribe and hit the bell. I cover a new topic every week, from side effect management to insurance appeals. One last thing, if you stopped this medication and the weight came back, you didn't fail. Your biology did exactly what biology does. The research is clear that Regain is the body's default setting, and defaults can be changed with the right plan and the right support. Talk to your provider, build your plan before you need it, and be as kind to yourself as you would be to a friend going through the same thing. I'm the GLP-1 nurse. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.